Yesterday at work was a bit of a weird day, and I knew that going into it. Like the first instance of something going awry, I'm like, I'm going to start keeping track of everything that happens to me in one night at work. Greetings, peers and queers. Welcome back to another episode of Monday through Friday. My name is JC, and I know it's been a bit of a crapshoot on what type of video I'm going to put out. For those of you who are longtime viewers of this channel, it could be a game of chance to figure out whether or not I'm going to be putting up a video about witchcraft, or I'm going to be putting up a video about LGBT issues. Am I going to talk about witchcraft today, or am I going to do a review on a book or a movie? I don't know. I've had a lot of changes going on in my own personal life. Obviously, I've had a lot of changes going on in my personal life. I think we all have. But since about December of 2022, I've had a lot of changes going on in my own personal life. And then we hit the eclipses during Aries season in March and April, and my life took a drastic turn. For those of you who are longtime viewers of this channel, you may recall that my boyfriend had moved out at that time during Aries season. So it was myself, my girlfriend, and our shared boyfriend. And since then, since March, April of 2023, I have not really had any contact, any like deep emotional, intellectual, or physical contact with male energy, like at all. It's now August of 2023, and I do feel like I'm wrapping up a lot of old cycles. A lot of things are happening for me right now that can be considered getting rid of all the obstacles in my life, or like the old baggage that I've been holding on to. Yesterday, a few things happened to me that I would like to share with you. Now, I work at a convenience store here in my town, and this town is my town from a former life, back when I used to be male presenting. This was the town that I kind of grew up and hung out in most. So I have a strong connection to a lot of the people and places here in this area. And since last year, October of last year, I've come back to my old stomping grounds. I'm now in a public-facing arena. I am working the front desk at a convenience store, and I'm starting to come into contact with people from my former life. Now, it's been odd to say the least, because a lot of people do not recognize me. Most people that I've known, most people that I've been friends with, that I've sat at their dinner table with, and not uncounting people that I have been inside of or who have been inside of me, do not remember who I am upon first looking at me. I've had to acknowledge, hey, I used to be, to quite a few people when they were like starting to show, like, you look very familiar. It's like, yes, we worked together at this time. We went to school together at this time. Something along those lines. I've had to be like, hey, do you remember so-and-so? I actually had an ex-girlfriend be like, oh, are you his sister? And I'm like, no, actually, I was him. I'm her now. And she's like, get out of here. I knew her because she was my ex-girlfriend. I knew her husband because he was my ex-employer. He was my ex-boss at like the first job that I ever had. So it was interesting getting both those accounts. And then even then, I ran into like the first girl that I ever had a crush on in high school, like ever. First girl I ever had a crush on, and the first girl I asked out. I see her now, and she's with her husband, and I've said to her a couple times, and him, hey, me and her went to school together. Hey, you and I went to school together. And she's been like, oh yeah, but like you could see there's a little bit of confusion there. Recently, she figured it out because Recently, the cat got out of the bag on exactly who I was, that I was. Because the timeline is convoluted. But recently, the cat got out of the bag. I was working nights because I'm working the night shift now. I'm no longer working the day shift. I am working the night shift. So I'm coming into contact with customers who are usuals, but whom I haven't had a great deal of interaction with. I'm dealing with the night people as opposed to the daytime people now. So I'm having to reintroduce myself and get to know a different set of regular customers. One of these customers was a gentleman who came up while myself and my non-binary coworker, we were talking about the Barbie movie and how they had gone with their sister, and they both wore pink to watch the movie in honor of Barbie. I'm like, wow, had I have gone, would I be able to have wore pink? And this gentleman jumps into the conversation. As I'm saying, most of the stuff that I own is black. I don't have a lot of pink. He chimes in, well, you're a girl. You're supposed to wear pink. Girls are supposed to wear pink. Now, I'll tell you what, if I ever see a boy wear pink, if I ever see a man wearing pink, I don't know about that one. To which I look at my coworker and I give a knowing nod because they and I were just talking about queer issues. And I look at him and I switch to daddy voice. I'm like, yeah, well, you'd be surprised. And he jumps back because he was not anticipating that. He says, you gotta be shitting me. Are you for real? And I'm like, dude, I'm trans. You know, kind of like, hey, you just said something homophobic. Let's talk about it. Should I wear pink now? He runs out of the store. Flash forward to a couple days later, which actually happens to be about 2 days ago. He's been coming in and he's been asking me to do the voice. Do the voice. Come on, do it again. Like I'm just going to do it whenever. I'm not going to do this as a performance. This is not a trick. I was trying to shock you into the fact that you think the world is one way when actually you need to open up to the fact that like queer people have always been here and always will be here. And you're asking me to perform a trick on demand. I've had that happen in other places I've worked where people have encouraged me, do the voice, scare this person, come here, I want to show you what she's able to do and stuff. I'm not a performing animal, all right? I'm not going to do tricks for you. I get to choose when or when not I do the daddy voice. And honestly, it's a lot harder than it sounds, okay? Because this is my natural voice now. I've trained it. This is my natural voice. Going deeper takes a little bit of concentration. But I digress. The funny thing about that is the girl that I had a crush on, the very first girl that I had a crush on in high school, her husband comes into the store, looks over his shoulder, sees that same gentleman out in the parking lot and goes, oh God, this guy. I'm like, why? What's the matter? And he's like, I hate this dude. This dude is so annoying. And I'm like, really? And I'm like, I feel the same way, but why for you? And he's like, that's my neighbor. And by the way, I heard the story about how you scared that guy. Good job. So it finally clicked. It clicked for him. It clicked for his wife that I'm trans, and I'm willing to bet that she figured out who I was from back then. I'm willing to figure it out. I'm willing to bet that she figured it out. And that their next door neighbor was this guy, and he was telling them, oh my God, that's a dude. Way, don't ever call a trans person that stuff. All right? Don't ever call a trans woman those terms, because those are terms that are taken directly from the adult film industry. Okay? It's practically hate speech, and it's borderline like sexist. So don't use that. But the dude just acknowledged that, hey, thank you for doing that, because this guy's kind of annoying. You put him out of his like safety zone, and you've cleared some issues up for me and my wife, because we're scratching our heads trying to figure out who you are. And I'm like, all right, well, it's all solved. Anyway, yesterday at work was a bit of a weird day, and I knew that going into it. Like the first instance of something going awry, I'm like, I'm going to start keeping track of everything that happens to me in one night at work. So, at the encouragement of my friend Liz, this one's for you. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to read to you this list. Everything on this list happened to me in one single night, 1 8-hour shift, working at a gas station in the town that I used to live in back when I was male presenting. Here we go. At work, July 30th, 2023. Flirted with a butch, and then immediately after flirted with a bi girl that came in. Butch lesbian comes in, me and her start talking, we start flirting a little bit. She was amazing. And then immediately after her, this bi chick comes in, and me and her start flirting. Which, by the way, my sexual orientation has changed a lot in this year alone. About a month before Aries season, I was like, you know what? Maybe I am just a lesbian. Maybe guys don't do it for me anymore. I knew that my, at the time, boyfriend, there was a problem there, and I thought that it had something to do with my not being attracted to men. That was Aries season. We're now in Leo season, so this is a number of months later, and I'm starting to crave that male energy again. And I know that my Aunt Sue is watching this. And I know that a few of my friends are watching this. They're like, hey, wait a minute. You said you're a lesbian. I'm a queer woman. I'm a queer woman. I'm still attracted to women. I'm still attracted to non-binary individuals. I'm still attracted to feminine males. I'm still attracted to masculine women. I don't know. I don't know if it's because my medication has been stalled. Like, I haven't had testosterone blockers. I have not had access to testosterone. I have not had access to testosterone blockers in about 2 months. Because I needed to get to Planned Parenthood and I didn't do it in time. Planned Parenthood said, no, you need to come in for a physical before we can allow any refills. So for about 2 months now, it's August now, so since about middle of June, I have not had my testosterone blockers available to me. And I did go through a bit of a an up and down emotional and intellectual loop when my hormones were out of whack again. But I'm getting comfortable again without being on testosterone blockers. And by the way, this is not me choosing to do this. My appointment is tomorrow for Planned Parenthood. I can finally say this because tomorrow I'm getting back on my testosterone blockers. I am by no means detransitioning. But tomorrow, which for me is August 1st, I'm finally getting back on my testosterone blockers. It's been a trip, and I know it's going to take a while to get back into my system, but August is going to be a weird month. For a lot of us, for a lot of different reasons, this is my reason. I'm saving up to get a car. I need to and I want to get some new tattoos. That's probably going to be more around October. But I'm also going to be getting back on my testosterone blockers. So if you see any erratic behavior on my videos for the next month, know that that's why. Anyways, back to the list. At work, July 30th, 2023. Flirted with a butch and then flirted with a bi girl. So after these ladies, I had a male ex-coworker that worked with me there on that job, come up, and he had asked what would happen if he snapped a dog leash onto my collar. Without me knowing, without asking permission, just came up out of the blue and put a leash onto my collar, because I wear collars at work. That day I was wearing my pink collar with the spikes. Most of them have a ring for leashes. I was wearing it that day, and I wear my collars at work for a couple of reasons. Number one, aesthetically, it's an interesting look. It lets people know that I'm a part of the punk gothic scene. And also because the feeling of a collar is just comforting to me. It's comforting to be wearing one. And sometimes when I have anxiety, I like to wear a collar because it makes me feel good. And it's also to signify to customers and people that come in the store, those in the know, that I am part of the kink community. And because it is a collar, I put on my own collar. I don't belong to anybody. I do have a girlfriend, but I am my own person. I am my own sub. I collar myself. Anyways, I had a male coworker ask what would happen if he just brought a dog leash, came up in without telling me, snapped it on me. To which I told him, hey, I'm not liable for what happens. Being a pet owner is a big responsibility. I tried to explain to him, I'm like, I don't know what would happen. I would not be responsible for that. On one hand, that's kind of personal, and that's kind of something that you don't do. On the other hand, I hear a leash click, and I go into subspace like right away. And I don't know how I would behave in a work setting if that were to happen. I have had other customers and other people that were working for a third party for the store be like, I just want to pull on your collar. And for a couple of them, I'm like, do it. But I don't know how that one would go. Doing that would put me into instant subspace. And I would just kind of go like, you know what I mean? And I'm kind of at a fragile time in my life right now. So I don't know what would happen. I don't know what would happen. It'd be weird. I don't want to find out. Right after that, gentlemen, I had a very obviously spiritual woman communicate to me that she witnessed a similar light in me as to herself. Her and I were talking about the different crystals that she was wearing. The crystal she was most proud of was ceramic with some clouding in it, and in the center of it had a tiger's eye. That crystal incorporated the created remains of both a niece and also a personal friend. Her and I had talked about that for an instant. I mentioned that I have a memory stone of my Aunt Carolie's remains, and at the end of the conversation, we just bid each other, you know, blessed be. She went on her way. Not too long after that, I ran into my rapist. He went to the other register, the one being manned by my coworker. Fortunately, I didn't have to talk to him this time, although I have several times talked to him because he is a regular customer. He has not acknowledged who I am, or I look so different that he hasn't recognized me, but I recognize him. And for those of you that are interested, link to the video describing that is up above or down in the descriptions. I'm not going to relate that story, but don't be like, this happened years ago. This was an instance from years ago, and even though I've been working up the courage to be like, hey, I don't know if you remember me. You might have remembered me as ... What you did to me was wrong. Even if you were intoxicated, even if you were drunk at the time, I feel like I deserve closure because we never talked about this. What you did to me was wrong. I'm not looking for any legal action. I'm not looking for any retaliation. But that is one of the burdens that I have been carrying with me for years. For years now, that is one of the things I've been carrying with me. And I'm doing all this work to just clear all these blockages, clear all these obstacles from my path. That is definitely going to be one of them too. Might not do it at work, but I will, if I find them, I'll be like, hey, you and I need to talk. You might not recognize me. This is what happened. This is what you did to me. Whether you remember it or not. I still ought to get closure for that one. After him, I ran into at least two people that I knew from high school. One was a girl that I had a few classes with, but she was part of that whole we're going to skip classes group. So I saw her rarely at school, but we recognized each other, and I'm pretty sure we worked at several places together before too. And I'm like, hey, and she's like, hey, and I'm like, what's up? The other person was like, in high school, I had two best friends, both of which were guys, because at the time I was male presenting. One of them I'll talk about sometime in the future. I'm not talking about it now. The other one I will talk about now. He was, at the time, we both were, just really into computers, a nerdy guy, and a bit of an outcast. Weren't we all? He comes in, I recognize him. I'm like, hey, your name's ... And he's like, yeah? And I'm like, you and I went to high school together. He looks at me, recognizes me, and he's like, oh yeah. That was the end of that one. I then had another guy tell me he was going to go get his leash and take me for a walk. And I'm like, all right. And then I ran into an old friend. I was like, hey, you and I used to go to the bars here in town together. We used to go to this one bar in particular. At the time, it was called Two Fools. I'm like, you and I used to go over there and stuff. I used to run into you all the time. He's like, oh yeah, that was years ago. At the time, he was a young gay kid who was new to my town, and I kind of took him under my wing, and I showed him some of the local gay-friendly areas and gay bars, because he was just newly 21, new to the area, and I was like, okay, cool, you know what? I'm going to do you a favor that no one's doing me. At the time, I was this bi dude. I was this bisexual guy, and the straight people didn't understand. The gay guys didn't really want anything to do with me because I was dirty, because I was bi. So I'm like, hey, you know what? I know where some of the queer spots are around here. Let me go ahead and I will show you. Him and I never did anything and stuff like that, but was like a solid friendship. It was like, queers looking out for each other. And we kept it friendly the whole entire time. It was cool seeing him, and you could see him smile. He's like, yeah, it's been a minute. And I'm like, it's been a whole gender. So, yeah, it was nice seeing him. And it was nice seeing somebody from my past who had fond memories of me. A lot of these people had fond memories of who I used to be. And I'm now coming to terms with that person no longer exists. I have their memories, yes. I've experienced the things that they've experienced, but I'm not that person anymore. I'm JC. And I'm ready to build my own life. I'm ready to experience things for myself. Relatively speaking, JC is rather young. I've only had my name changed for about 2 years now. I've only existed as JC for about 3 years. Yes, I've used the name JC a long time before, but that was usually to myself in my room or in my car thinking about it. I've only been who I am for the past 3 years. And there's a lot that I haven't really experienced. And I'm trying to figure out, where am I going? What's my life purpose? And I'm balancing that out with who I was. On one hand, I had a life. I had a life that didn't really fit me, didn't really make me happy, that I didn't feel fulfilled in. And I let that life go so that I could be born anew. And it's scary because it's almost like starting from scratch, but it's more like starting with a clean slate. It's like, how do I put this? I don't have a history. I can only hint at who I was. But as far as JC's concerned, she doesn't have a lot of memories. For instance, I've only existed for about 3 years as JC. The name changed for about 2 legally. Only had about 2 years legally as JC. Hormones I've been on for about 3 years. And in that time, I've only ever been with 3 people. I've only ever slept with 3 people, all 3 of which have been partners. My ex-girlfriend, and then later on, my ex-boyfriend and my girlfriend. And I'm wanting to experience life. I'm wanting to try new things. I'm figuring out who I am personality-wise, what I'm going to be like. I don't want to be mean-spirited. I don't want to be a prude. I don't want to be someone who says no to everything. I want to go out and hang out with friends. I want to go see more people. My situation right now is that I don't have a vehicle, so it's hard to get around places. I'm having to rely on others. Whereas the old me was the one who used to drive everyone everywhere, which is odd because no one else then had a car and I was constantly the chauffeur. But me now, it's like I'm not willing to ask for a ride because I'm too stubborn. I'll walk over to see you, or I'll wait. I want to hang out with more of my friends. I want to spend more time being with friends, creating a friend group, hanging out with folks who just know me for me, and that we could just have fun and vent to each other. More people like me to just hang out with. A queer community. A witchcraft community. A kinky community. And it's hard. I'm scared, because I haven't always been this open about things. Like right now, I feel like I want to sleep with a guy again. And I have talked to Lena about this. Like, hey, I've got this itch. I've got this itch that I need to scratch. And I need to know this about myself. I haven't been with a guy since March or April. Since March. Because I kind of gave the ex the cold shoulder all of April. And I've talked to a few people. And I've opened up communications to a few people. I've used apps. You know what I mean? I went onto... and I've talked to a few people. I've even went as far as with my old phone, I made a Tinder, and then I made a Grindr account. But then I was spending too much money on Amazon, and I was trying to find something on Tinder or Grindr, and then my phone goes into the wash and is destroyed, and I take it as a sign from the universe or from divinity that, hey, knock this out. Stop spending your money. Stop looking for something cheap and quick. Okay. I stopped. I didn't re-upload any of those apps. I haven't bought anything off Amazon. I'm supposed to be saving up to get a car so I can have my freedom. I gotcha. The day before that weird day at work, I wrote, sometimes I want to disappear. I get only a few views on a video, or someone leaves a transphobic comment, and I want to quit. I want to pack it up and to stop making videos. Period. It eats up my days off, and really I'm only ever talking to a handful of people. I don't know what I'm doing. I don't know what I want out of life. I don't even know what I'm supposed to want out of life. So that brings it back around to, do I make witchcraft videos? Do I make videos about being queer? Do I make videos about being trans? What do I talk about on this channel? What is Monday through Friday about? It's hard to pinpoint because I don't even always know what JC's about. And you can like this video, you can share this video, you can subscribe, you can unsubscribe. You can put a nasty comment on here about how I'll never be a real woman. Or you can do whatever you want. I'm just a person trying to figure out who she is. I'm just trying to connect with others. I'm just trying to make sense of my life. And if I can help anyone else in the process, cool. But I need to help myself first. Because, like the airline infomercials say, before assisting anyone else, make sure that your oxygen mask is securely fitted. I need to make sure that I am taken care of so that I can help others. And I hope that you're getting something out of these videos. For those of you that are watching and continue to watch and subscribe, I hope that you're getting something out of these videos. I don't know what direction these videos are going to go into. I do know that like two of the biggest interests that I hold as of right now are trying to reach out and explain witchcraft and spirituality to individuals, and also explain that being queer, being LGBTQIA+, is not as abnormal as society would have you think. There are plenty of us that are in the closet or in the broom closet. And if this was a Venn diagram, there is a lot of us that are in the middle. All right? Do not be afraid to live as yourself authentically. My coworker Liz, my friend Liz, told me, JC, just go ahead and make a real video. Make an authentic video. I do make new videos every Saturday, so I look forward to seeing you all again next week. I love you all very, very much.